Insanity, insanity, whatever happened to humanity?
Afro Samurai Resurrection is a 2009 anime film that is a sequel to the anime short series Afro Samurai. After succeeding to avenge his father's death, Afro lays in rest, while unknown others claim the headband and he tries to obtain it, for it is the last memento of his father, while others sees it as a godlike title, and some few sees it as a dark past. Now, if you guys saw my last Afro Samurai review, I loved that anime. I thought the anime was great. I thought it was phenomenal, a little rough around the edge, especially the ending of it. And people kind of disagreed with the rating I gave it because they thought that it was a little bit too depressing on my taste of the anime. I gave it so much high praise, but that just shows you how much disappointment I felt, because by an anime that started off great and had a very good chemistry and a very good drive to Afro's character, I really wanted him to succeed. I wanted him to avenge his father's death. And I felt like by this anime ending in such of a sequel bait way, it was not necessary. He obtained the #1 headband. He has fulfilled his father's legacy, and he has obtained the throne by being completely powerful, and everybody was fearing him. So where is the sequel coming from? I felt like the sequel bait was to be on the edge of other people that was loving the anime to be continued of what the idea producers and creators had in store for us. And by me being a critic, by me that has seen animes, movies, and shows that has a revenge plot cycle, you have to realize when we see the beginning cycle of what you are making, such as stuff like this, and we begin to love it, we begin to love the drive of it, and you making a sequel, you are running the risk of us continuing to love the characters. I feel like by us having a drive of the revenge synopsis of the main character itself, and they fulfill that revenge on the first of the film, there's no need for a sequel, in my opinion. To make a further example, let's talk about Taken. Liam Neeson, first one, daughter gets kidnapped, been through hell and hot water to get his daughter back. That should have been the end of it, but instead they want to make a second one. They ran out of ideas to be creative, so what they did was they did a back and forth synopsis by him and the wife being kidnapped, and that movie fell flat because even Rotten Tomatoes, and I gotta give Rotten Tomatoes praise on this, even they knew this because the rating of that one was lower than the first one. And to go even further than that, they felt like, we're really running short here. How can we bring this back? How can we bring back the liking of this film? Well, we did not include one thing on this film. We did not include a death of a character. So they have included a death of the character in the beginning of the film, if not in the beginning of the freaking trailer. And they thought that was going to pull fans in, but instead Taken 3 was the worst film of all three. And then going even further, we're going to talk about John Wick. John Wick, the first one was phenomenal, great, fantastic in all sense of the word. It was actually a good puller when it comes to the intensity of John Wick's character and his motivations. I cared about the dog, I cared about his drive, and I cared about his succeeding of him obtaining what was his, and that was his title of people respecting him and respecting the death of his wife. John Wick 2 didn't have none of that. John Wick 3 didn't have none of that. John Wick 2 and 3 was enemies running away from him as John Wick 1 was enemies running away from him. John Wick 2 and 3 was him running away from the enemies because they all wanted to take him down. I feel like the only revenge film that is done right was Kill Bill 1 and 2, because the name of itself represented the drive of Uma Thurman's character, Beatrix Kiddo. Now, people would debatably say that Kill Bill 2 was not as good as the first one because, let's just face it here, Kill Bill had the best impelling action. And I have to agree with that. But I like the Kill Bill 2 because it lacked something that Kill Bill did not have, was the chemistry of Beatrix's drive. We know what happened, but we wanted to see what happened. We wanted to see how things played out. And I felt like they should have done all that on the first one and focused more of the action and the blood and gore on the second one. But still though, it's still not bad on both aspects. Now, I'm saying that to say this. Afro Samurai Resurrection, is it on that Kill Bill category or is it on that Taken and John Wick failed category? It has to be on both sides? No, it's on the John Wick and the Taken category. And by me watching it when I was 19 years old in 2009, I knew it was going to be bad by me reviewing the first one, because by me watching the first one, I instantly was beginning to get flashbacks. And not only was I was right about the theory, but by me being older, I was even more pissed off than I anticipated. This movie lacks everything. The chemistry, character development, dialogue, every single thing, including the pacing itself. The creativity, let's talk about the creativity of the story of the character, Afro himself. I do like the fact that he is not even looking for violence, but violence has found him. And they even said this. They said that when you obtain a number one headband, people will try to come and try to defeat you. Now, I was thinking to myself, by you being a number one headband wielder, it's not going to be like spring chicken enemies. There's going to be enemies that has a number two headband that is going to try to defeat you, and they have an imposement of a godlike figure itself. So I thought the enemies on this one was going to be even more threatening and imposing on than the first one, because the second one, because of the first one, he had to work his way up to get the number one headband. But the second one, I thought it was going to be more action, and they do that. They do have that. They do have more action. In fact, more intense action, more close and more personal action, and I have to give it that. But as for the chemistry of the enemies itself and how things get played out by us believing the enemy's motives, I did not buy it. And they noticed, because the creativity was all on the first one, so what they did was they want to include old characters that we have known from the first one and make them more crooked, more fucked up, more malicious on this one, just so they can have a reason of why they want to take down Afro Samurai and obtain the number one headband. I couldn't afford that reason. I felt like that reason was cheap, and any 5-year-old kid could have made that idea, honestly. That was already explained on the first one. And in fact, it was so much explained to the point where I believed every single one of their intentions when it came to Afro Samurai not betraying his friends and his foster family, but it was enough of me to be accepted of his drive, and it all played out. But they wanted to stretch it even harder on this one by you looking at the shoes of these characters. What have they have done after he got the number one headband? How things have been turning out since then, and what are their drives and intentions? Not enough for me to be entertained with all these characters, honestly. I'm just being dead ass. And it even goes even further than that. They know that they are lacking chemistry with the character development and the enemies itself. There's not one enemy on here that posed a threat to the point where I really felt the intensity drive of Afro being defeated. But they wanted to focus more on the chemistry of him being a number one headband wielder. That's like one of the only things on this anime, other than the action, that I liked. It was him seeing both aspects and him experiencing both aspects of him not being a samurai wielder, but also him being the eyes of a murderer. Because there were times where people would tell him and confront him and saying that you killed my brother, you killed my father, you killed my cousin, you killed my best friend. And they even went farther. As for him going to his journey, he had no choice but to kill a number two headband wielder. And by him killing this number two headband wielder, this headband wielder also had a son, and his son also witnessed what happened. And his son wanted revenge. Does that sound familiar to you? Does that sound familiar to you? Just like Afro's legacy, it repeated itself. Now, some people thought that was great, that was well executed, but I felt like that was just to, to prop the emotions. That was one of the most only dramatic things I've seen on this anime, but again, we already been there and done that with Afro's character. And it was acceptable, but I felt like they could have done better with the pacing of that. The character just came and went. They had a little dialogue with the character that had a number two headband, but not enough with the father character that Afro Samurai was trying to avenge. Now, going back to the action, I feel like I haven't explained it enough. The action, again, is intense, it's bloody, it is right in your face, but I feel like in some ways it is actually better than the first one. The first one has some good intense action, but it's like a topsy-turvy feeling. The second one has a lot of intense action, better than the first one, but the first one had more creativity of the action when it came to Afro Samurai using his wits, using his afro to project, to protect certain projectiles and stuff. I love that on the first one. Unlike the second one, they didn't really do much of that. It just focused more on sword play and just quick time blows and just showing more decapitation and showing more split open body parts. I was getting a lot of Metal Gear Rising feels to it. I thought it was great. So by saying this, if you love more gore and more blood and more up close and personal action, this one would do it well for you. But if you're like me, if you like more creativity and more cleverness when it comes to Afro winning and obtaining his foes, the first one has done it way better. Now, let's talk about the music. The music is still there. The music is still cool, still pulled me in, still got me on the edge. I thought it was pretty cool. In fact, I thought the music was actually a little better than the first one. In fact, they actually added some elements to the music that the first one didn't do, and that was showing some elementals of DJs playing in the background and showing certain designs and art styles of mixtures of hip-hop and samurai shonen and all that stuff. I thought it was great, especially when Afro was in downtown, and I thought that was pretty good. But they even fucked that up because they showed some scenes that stood out of place, like random fucking scenes. I mean, literally, like random fucking scenes, like people just fucking in the middle of the alley and just having sex with females and shit. I thought it was weird and out of place and awkward. In fact, I remember when me and my father was watching Afro Samurai Resurrection a long time ago, and I seen that scene, and we just looked at each other, and we just looked at, we was like, I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of animes do this, but I felt like Afro Samurai, the first one, they didn't have scenes like that, but they did have a sex scene, and it made more sense. This one, it was just thrown in your face because they felt as if, okay, we don't have a sex scene in here, let's include one. That's just how I felt. They should have executed it in a better way, instead of me being intertwined with the visuals and the hip-hop aspect and just throwing it out of my face. I felt like I was watching a Nelly uncensored video. The anime does not have no creativity to none of the things that I have mentioned. It is lacking character chemistry other than Afro itself. In fact, they have not just pushed Afro into the aspects of him being a number one headband wielder, but they have butchered his character development, man. People have literally talked crap about his character by disrespecting his father's legacy, disrespecting his drive of him being a samurai swordsman. It happens a lot on this anime. As you saw Afro on the first one that has tried his hardest and sacrificed everything to obtain a number one headband and to avenge his father's death, this one shits on this hard. So much so to the point where after his father death was avenged, they decided to bring his father back to life. Afro Samurai Resurrection, right? The name speaks for itself. But it was terrible. I felt like they have done that because they was lacking another enemy that could oppose Afro Samurai, and a lot of films do this. I mean, Logan, for example. Logan, the Marvel film, had done this. I thought the movie was great. I thought the movie was good. But the fact that he had to fight a replica of himself was a low blow. I was like, come on, they could have done better than that. Afro Samurai Resurrection has done the same thing, but there's two differences. One, it wasn't Logan's father. It was Afro's father. And number two, Logan was way better than this one. At the end of the day, revenge sequels really do suck. It's terrible. It's you don't expect much. You don't. If people who say that this was better than the first one, they need to get shot dead after they get hit by a bus, after they get hit by a plane. Because how is it better than the first one? If you think it's better than the first one, then you clearly don't know good animes, or you're just easily entertained. So I take that back. If this does please you, you thought this was better than the first one, okay, all right. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'll take a couple steps back. I have to respect your opinion, but I can't own that opinion because you have people like me that notice certain things that has more holes on the plot angle than the fucking Titanic. Let's talk about Lucy Liu's character. Lucy Liu's character confused the hell out of me because On the first Afro Samurai film, she played a voice of a female on there that falls in love with Afro Samurai, and she grew up with Afro Samurai's character as he begins to progress, and then later on she begins to have sex with him as when they bump heads again when they're both adults. Lucy Liu is back, but she plays another character, and that confused me because I was like, wait a minute, isn't this the same character that was on the first one? So why does she hate Afro Samurai for some reason? Did he give her a disease or something while they had sex or something like that? I did not get it. And at the same time, she kind of got killed off on the first one. But I thought she came back because as the teddy bear warrior came back after he was brutally injured, I thought she came back as well. But no, these are two different characters, but the same voice actress. Y'all couldn't afford another character? How about Kelly Yu? Kelly Yu would have been a good actress to play that part. I thought she was good. But I guess Lucy Liu wanted to play two aspects by two different characters, but the same type of voices. You couldn't just switch it up or just make her talk Japanese. I could have changed the Japanese, but that would have been a little bit more disturbing in my opinion. But it confused me, and I'm pretty sure it confused a lot of people too. I'm just the only one that can admit it. But one thing I did like about Lucy Liu's character on Afro Samurai Resurrection, they had little Easter eggs to it, as she had like a little dagger that represented Kill Bill. You thought you were slick, I pointed that shit out. At the end of the day, the anime is subjective. If you like films that has a continuation of after the character has fulfilled his legacy, fulfilled his prophecy, you may like this film. But if you like me, and you know that it's going to lack a lot of good creativity of the character development, because most of that, in fact all of that is done on the original, because we know the drive of the character's motivations. What is after Afro Samurai, the first one? What, he's going to start cooking and cleaning and getting married, and all of a sudden he has a child and he trains that kid to be a sword wielder too, and he ends up dying, and then the kid has to fulfill his legacy? Honestly, I hope that would have been a much better film, because at least his father's legacy is not butchered. At least Afro Samurai's legacy is not butchered. This film shits on what he has worked for on the original, and put that all into a lot of good fast-pacing action, good visuals, and a great soundtrack. That's all that Afro Samurai Resurrection has to offer. I'm gonna have to give Afro Samurai Resurrection a D. Seriously, let's think about this real quick. And I know people are gonna say, well, you're just hating on the film because they have a sequel. I'm not hating on sequels here, okay? And I don't mind sequels. But I feel like if you are going to make a continuation of Afro Samurai, you can do that. You can do that. You can make a continuation of Afro Samurai. Especially if the budget is big, because Afro Samurai, the first one, did so well to the point where what they're going to do with the budget, just sit there and just stand on it for so long? No, they're going to have to probably make some more continuations to it. But I feel like if you are going to continue off the franchise, correct things that need to be addressed that you didn't explain on the first one. For example, how about you make a prequel of Afro Samurai about his father, how he obtained the #1 headband? I would have loved to see that. But instead, you wanted to make a continuation, and that's where the risk came in. Because, let's be fair here, they brung his father back on this one. Father is very diabolical, he's very vicious, but at the end of the day, you know Afro is going to obtain, and he's going to avenge his title by killing his own father. That was a heartbreaking part for me. But I feel as if, even though after we've seen him on both of them, we're still lacking his chemistry. We still don't know how he obtained the first one. We still don't know how he ended up getting the second one to get the first one. We don't even know why the main enemy of the first one was so obsessed to kill him to get the #1 headband in the first place, and what was his drive to. There was so many things you could have explained and made that a prequel, but instead you wanted to butcher this one and make this one a continuation. That's my vision on it. For people who did not like my other review and my rating, I know you're going to hate this one. Well, I feel like by me being a critic is like me being a professional doctor. When you come to my office, when you expect good news, I can give you good news, but there's going to be times I'm going to have to let you know, hey, look, I got some bad news for you. Well, what's the problem, Mr. Harrelson? Well, I believe that this movie sucks balls, and I think that you're going to die in criticism. All right. Let me stop. All right. We all need to calm down. Okay. I just feel like at the end of the day, this is why critics succeed so much, because people be in their feelings more than they be into facts, and these are factual situational methods that I'm putting out on this film. You know, I just feel like if you have the budget to make a continuation, go a couple steps back and explain things that you was lacking on the original that was still great. Again, the first one was fantastic. The first one was good. The first one was phenomenal. The first one was indeed a masterpiece. Do exactly what Dragon Ball Z done. They know that the Broly films was terrible, especially the Bio Broly. The first one was good, but just like Afro Samurai, it ended so blatantly. It ended so stupidly, to the point where Broly was a strong, diabolical person, and it just took one hit for him to go down. What was the use for all those people to try to butt it in the first place? I didn't understand that. So I feel like, and I'm saying that to say this, the first one was great, but it was terrible in the end by the sequel bait, because it was like you being ready for a dish that was the wrong order, and right when you open the tray up, it was completely what you was not expecting. Think about the things that you're allergic to, and that's what this film is. That's all I have to say about that. Anyway, I wasted too much time. That's all I have to say for today. Please stay tuned for more of my upcoming reviews and anime videos headed your way. This is Hugo, your critic teacher, and you guys have a good day.